it's a lot easier for me to share an idea or to maybe give feedback if I'm in person.
Yeah.
Sometimes the video and doing it over Zoom, it just doesn't translate. And I don't know why. I couldn't get into the psychology of.
I think it has to do with like the way communication flows. Like it's almost like you're waiting.
Yeah.
Like sometimes in a room, like, you and I are talking right now. It's like, we're not waiting. We're talking. There's energy, there's flow, there's a vibe.
Yeah.
When you're in person. When you're online, it's kind of like 2-dimensional. So I feel like when you're doing a Zoom, yeah, you can see my body language. You can hear the tone of my voice. How fast am I speaking? How slow am I speaking? It doesn't matter. Like it's the same as if I was sitting right there, but it's on a flat screen. So there's something I want to say like inhuman about it, but it doesn't feel as real as when you're sitting next to each other. Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney. And Tim, today we're going to kick it off.
Like that new smooth intro you dove in with. NBC.
I've been working on it. Tim, today we're going to be talking about virtual versus brick and mortar.
Oh, nice.
Not dating.
That would be very weird.
That would be weird. Office setups. So we're going to talk about pluses, minus of each and dive into them a little bit.
All right, so let's go. You know me, glass half full, Garrity.
That's it.
So if we're going glass half full, I'm going to go toward the benefits of the brick and mortar, which again, not very popular in today's world because people feel like, hey, I can make this thing work this way. It's not like it was. So let me go over the pros of brick and mortar. I'm going to say the number one pro of brick and mortar, my own opinion, is culture. And I think culture is one of those things that I feel like you need an in-office culture. You need that brick and mortar culture. And then you also need a virtual culture. Like I think to successfully run a business today, again, my own opinion, you need both. You need balance of both. It can lean one way or the other. It's not 50-50. It's not 75-25. Like there's no right answer. But I think if you go 100 one way or 100 the other, I think you're missing out on opportunity because people are more flexible now. And with the flexibility of not only, let's call it employees or the agents, the people that are just working for you, which again, real estate brokers, all the agents work out of their house. Like people don't go in the office anymore. Yeah. I go to different big box shop offices for closings and they got seating for like 150 people and they're maybe 2.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that as like, why? Again, older thinking, pre-pandemic thinking, who knew?
Well, I think a lot of it too is technology. When some of these offices and businesses were around, you didn't have the technology to be able to do virtual. And some businesses just linger on doing what we always done, right? And not adapting. So I think that plays a part as well.
So culture, definitely number one for me. The second one is visibility.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would agree with this statement. So like when you try to get stuff done with your team, like you're having a meeting, whatever it is, whether it's training, whether it's catching up on the business, whether it's marketing, whether it's customer service, or, you're throwing an event, you're just getting together. Like I find that doing meetings in person are just more productive.
Sure.
As a whole.
Yeah.
Can you do Zoom meetings? 100%. Should you do Zoom meetings? Yes, you should. In-person meetings to me, I do 2 in-person meetings a week personally at my brokerage. One, I do it with the partners of the brokerage where we're going over the entire operation, where we're going over the real estate brokerage, the title division, and the development division. Like that's what we focus on. And then also I do one weekly meeting in person with my staff. So with my operations manager and my office manager. So both of them going over the nuts and bolts, dotting I's, crossing T's.
Yep.
I just find that when you're in person, just like the natural flow of conversation, the energy in the room, it just feels like it's more productive. Like everyone's in their right skin to like get it done.
Well, you can also bounce ideas, right? So like if you bring up a topic, it's a lot easier for me to share an idea or to maybe give feedback if I'm in person.
Yeah.
Sometimes the video and doing it over Zoom, it just doesn't translate. And I don't know why. I couldn't get into the psychology of.
I think it has to do with like the way communication flows. Like it's almost like you're waiting. Yeah. Like sometimes in a room, like, you and I are talking right now. It's like, we're not waiting. We're talking. There's energy, there's flow, there's a vibe.
Yeah.
When you're in person. When you're online, it's kind of like 2-dimensional. So I feel like when you're doing a Zoom, yeah, you can see my body language. You can hear the tone of my voice. How fast am I speaking? How slow am I speaking? It doesn't matter. Like it's the same as if I was sitting right there, but it's on a flat screen. So there's something I want to say like inhuman about it, but it doesn't feel as real as when you're sitting next to each other.
I think presentation wise, you don't really lose anything, right? If you're presenting information, you can present over Zoom because you're speaking about a topic and, it's one way. And the other is, if you did a Q&A, right? So like if you present and people have questions, specific questions, if you're looking for collaborative, topical stuff, projects you're working on, I don't think the Zoom gets you there.
It's not as productive.
Yeah.
It can be productive. Again, my own opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go over the cons. So I'm going to go Mooney style, half empty.
Let's go.
All right. So we're going the cons of brick and mortar. Number one con for me, this is probably a lot of people's pain point today in 2024, going through the last 4 years, let's say, is cost.
Yeah.
And 4 years ago, so let's go January of 2020, when technically nothing had changed in the work environment yet. Office was huge. It was part of your identity. It's like the investment you made in a city, in a community, like for your agents, your employees, like yourself. Like it was a reflection of like who you were. Like as a company, like for us, we started on a co-working space in Center City. We did that for 4 years. We went from tiny little office to a little bit bigger of an office. Then we said, after 4 years of that, we're like, look, we need our own space because we need people to walk into our office and feel our company.
Yep.
Right now they walk into the co-working space, they feel 50 companies because we're in a shared space. Now they can come back and they can get our vibe, but it's just different. It's not ours. As soon as we did the office space in Center City, that was ours, literally our agent team grew by 50%. So this was like in I think it was like probably like 2019. And I don't say the office did that alone, but the office was a huge stamp of approval. People walked into it. We're in Center City. We're in 2,500 square feet at the corner of Main and Main in Center City, Philadelphia. And they walk into this beautiful office space with a bullpen for agents, offices for us, great conference room, front lobby area, like decked out, decals, branding. And it's like, what a badass office this is. Then when we came back after quarantine, like no one wanted to come in. And then a couple years later, like we're not there toward the middle of last year is kind of when we stopped. And then like we just looked at it, we're like, how important is it? We even surveyed our team. How important is it to be in Center City?
Yeah.
And like 1 or 2 out of 10 said it's important. And the other 8 or 9 said it's not. We don't value that. Like you could be somewhere else. So one, there's the cost. So that's one point. The second point I want to make is it necessary? Which kind of goes a little bit back to the pro. And I will say, yes, that I feel it is necessary because as we're kind of looking at the pandemic part, the quarantine part as a part of our history now, and we're moving forward as best we can in society with all that crap we went through emotionally, like personally, like with families, with friends, with work. And now people are getting back to like reality. It's like almost their employers now are starting to like hold the cards a little bit. We're like, you're coming back 3 days a week. You're coming back 4 days a week. And they're almost waiting for the day where you're like, you don't work out of the house anymore.
Well, real estate's a little different, right? So I don't think you can compare real estate to these other industries where work is required.
Fair point.
we need 40 hours of work out of you, and it's integral to the way that we operate as a business, right? So I think with those industries, there's different ones, but I think that with them, I think that the lack of productivity was forcing the hand.
Yep.
So we're not as productive. We're not outputting as many widgets as we need to output.
Yep.
So we need people back so that we can ramp back up.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
To the level that we were pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where we're beyond it, and that is becoming a requirement. So I think for certain industries that works, and that requirement is a necessity. Real estate is not that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to look at it. And I appreciate you saying that. And I agree, because actually before everything happened in 2020, the office model was kind of dying in real estate a little bit. I think the old school people in the business were like trying to keep it alive, like come into the office, like let's talk, let's get lunch, let's do this. And there's value in that. There is, but they were like saying like, get in here, like be in the office, like make this investment worth it for us. We're paying all this money. And then when the pandemic really hit, like, and people were, not only were they able to be like as productive, I think people found different ways to be productive. One of our biggest ways was through Zoom.
Yeah.
And it was like, we used to do in-person monthly meetings at the brokerage. We did this at the office downtown. We invite the agents, bring a guest, we'd have a guest speaker, we'd have a topic, whatever it is. We'd have, food, wine, beer. And then when the pandemic hit, it was just like, at first I started doing like Zoom things just to build confidence.
Right.
Because people were panicking.
Yeah.
But then what eventually happened is like, as we got out of that, we've done maybe, so it's probably 2 years worth of Zoom meetings. Every 2 weeks we do a sales meeting. It's always through Zoom. I never, ever do it in person. But what I do is I do 4 in-person events a year.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're at my office and sometimes they're not. Like we're going to do our awards party in next week, the end of next week. And it's going to be low key. 10, 20 people, like not a
in
big.
Boca?
Yeah, I wish. I did just come back from Disney World, and the weather was pretty awesome in Florida.
Not Philly-like?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too great, but it was good.
Better than here.
Better than here.
Okay.
So like now I've been able to kind of be like, all right.
Did you get the ears with Tim? Like how they have the ears and Tim and Balls?
Well, it's so funny because I was dying to get those. And then my 5-year-old daughter talked me out of it. But the really funny thing, not to get too off topic, when we got to Disney World, we're like buying all this stuff at the resort, and we go into the store
for
like pennies on the dollar. Yeah. And we go into like the gift store in our like
give it to you,
property
right?
Disney resort. Yeah. And my daughter goes in there, she's like, I want this. And she's 5 years old, and it's the mini ears, it's rainbow, and it's got the veil going down the back. I'm like, yo, this is if you're getting like married or having your bridal party in Disney World. She worked the whole trip, man. She's 5 years old. So
can't say no when you're in Disney. It's very hard to say no.
All right, so enough about pros and cons of me. Let's go with the con of brick and mortar for you.
Con brick and mortar. Having to see everyone every day. No, I can't.
I'm like, whoa.
That would be.
Whoa, Moon.
That would be. Dylan, can you cut that?
Hey, can we just like take those last like 5 seconds?
Con. So I guess what I was going to say with one of the cons for you, not so much me, but for you would be like drive time, commuting.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I think that in a lot of offices, the commute for people, half an hour one way can be a lot. And that to me has to be like the most,
right.
Because if you think about it, an hour a day, 2 hours a day,
getting
it's
ready,
10 hours a week,
lunch,
right? And so I think to have that time back is a humongous advantage for people,
So like in an insurance sense, because I know you've always had more of a low-key office because it's less relevant.
Yep.
But what would you say the biggest pro is of having the office that you have? You're in downtown Ambler.
Yeah.
So you got a great location. You
Yep,
got
right on
you
Main
got
Drag,
signed
right on
right on Butler.
Yep.
What's an advantage to having that besides maybe like lead gen, brand presence?
Yeah, I think for us, and it's different with every industry, but I think that what works for us is really being a part of the community. You know, there's an downtown Ambler, there's an Ambler Main Street, there's different associations that we belong to. So I think what works best for us and to our advantage is kind of being a part of the downtown hustle and bustle, being associated with those events that take place. They have they shut down Butler for different events
like
that go on.
First Fridays and stuff like that. Yeah.
Different vendor stuff that they have going on. So I think that the recognition, the brand recognition, the name we have, where we're situated, I think that the biggest advantage that we have is being part of the community.
Awesome.
In there.
Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth. So if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the B&R word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. All right, should we dive into kind of like the pros and cons of virtual?
Yeah.
Why don't you start off? Give me the pro or the pros of running your company more virtual and less office meeting-y.
Yeah. So, and we've done this. We've had, virtual agents that have worked for us, across and that were domiciled in California.
Yeah.
So we had that. So we have a little taste of how to operate as that. I think that one of the best things that I heard recently is from an insurance agency. And this is great. And I'd love to get feedback from all of the listeners and for you. But one thing I heard, Dill, drop in the comments, was a good friend of mine, Teresa Kitchens. She runs an agency down in Texas. And the one thing that she mentioned the other day was that she's 100% virtual. There is no office. What she does, because culture was a bit
100% virtual.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Does she operate on the Droid system or on the iPhone iOS system? She must have an iPhone.
Knowing how successful she is, I'd have to presume that she owns an iPhone.
I mean, why do you even ask the question? I think we both assume that that's the correct answer. You
Total
have an
assumption.
iPhone, you're going like that, you got a Droid going like that.
I'll call
Sorry,
Teresa.
everyone, I just got to be straight up.
I'll text Teresa and see if I get a blue dot or a green dot.
Give me her number. I'll text her myself so then I can share it on the next episode.
A great thing that she offered up was she runs a Zoom all day.
Really?
Yep.
Like, give me, like, what's the context of that? Like, who's joining? Like, why?
So I think one of the pain points of being all virtual is you lose culture.
Yep.
You lose the ability to walk into someone's office. Yeah. You lose the ability to
knock on the door,
run a question by someone real quickly.
You got to schedule everything.
Yep. So what she did and what she implemented, which is brilliant, is that she runs a Zoom. So if you have an extra monitor and you have an open Zoom for every employee.
Wow.
So it's just it's like an office. Yep.
And it just dings her and then she'll come over and be like, yeah, what do you need?
Yeah. Or you'd be like, oh, hey, Teresa, I have a question on this. Can you hop
on real quick? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Awesome, right?
I've never heard of it that way. Yeah.
Never heard of it either.
And is she in independent insurance or is she more?
Yeah, independent.
Does it her way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think the pain point was that you're losing so much from being virtual. And she kind of thought collaboratively, he's like, all right, well, how can we?
Yeah, that's a big pro.
How can we kind of like bring the office setting to a virtual type of application?
She's owning it. Like we just did that interview with Ryan, and it's like he's like, you got to own it. Like,
yeah,
you gotta. Who are you? And once you know who you are, you got to own that. And you can't be all things to all people.
Yeah,
like you have to know who you're attracting. You had said your tribe. who are you attracting through this model? Because again, there's some people that are like, that would drive me absolutely up a wall if I got to sit in a Zoom with you just to knock on your door. Like, when are we going to hang out? You got to schedule time with me. It's like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And dude, that's really interesting. I'd say for me too, the number one, this kind of goes back to the of the con of bricks and mortar is a pro for virtual is cost.
Yeah.
Like literally, like the cost of Zoom to have it for your office is like less than $20 a month.
Right.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And Zoom, Teams is technically, or not Teams. What's the Google one? I don't know. I don't have a Droid. Google Meet. Yeah. You would know.
No, we use Teams.
Yeah. Of course, use Teams. I get on Teams meeting. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh, I need a code.
Yeah, I gotta raise my hand. Where the hell is that? How do I do this?
If only Apple could come out with a meeting.
Oh, they will
link that we could do, because it would just be that much better.
Yeah. You just watch and see.
It'd solve world hunger. I think. I really do.
No one's ever gonna need a meal again.
Yeah. Feed the world. Buy an iPhone. So
definitely huge pro of virtual is cost, but also in time. Time is our most valuable asset. Most people in business, especially people like you and I running businesses ourselves, would agree. Time is our most precious asset.
Yep.
Not enough time for family, not enough time for meetings, not enough time for sales, not enough time for marketing, management, like growth, like everything you're doing. Like you never have enough time. So I think planning out your company, again, this goes to all the listeners out there, like people trying to figure out which way should I go. Like, here's a big advantage. Like, strive for a little bit of both, but understand what's your strength. Like, what do you like? Are you way more efficient and knowing, like having that open Zoom all day, if that really works for you, then go with that. And then have a place where you can meet, like have a conference room somewhere, like have a desk at a co-working space, like, have those events, have monthly events, like whatever you want to do, like have a little bit of both. But the time thing is huge, because like to your point earlier, like you don't need to like literally do everything you need to do to go out for an in-person meeting. Like you could just literally say, all right, let me go get ready real quick. Hey, I'm going to go real easy today. I'm going to throw on a hoodie. I'm going to throw on a hat. Like we're good to go. And like, you can literally just jump on a meeting. There's no drive time. There's no gas. Like as soon as you're done, you're not driving home. You're not dealing with traffic. And it's like, you're doing that and you're like, that was a very productive meeting.
Yeah.
But that you have to own that. Like it has to be like who you are, like part of your strategy. And we went over this in an episode before, not to take this too far, but like when I do buyer consultations for buyer clients, I always said I'd rather do Zoom. Like, I think Zoom's better for you, and I think Zoom is better for me. I think it's a win-win to do Zoom because we're just trying to get to know each other. And I'm trying to tell you about the company, who I am, my approach, how I can get you to where you're going with as little pain as possible and spending as least amount of money as possible. Like, those are the two goals as a buyer, and I like doing that through Zoom.
I think if you explain it away, right?
Yep.
So if like, this is why I'm doing this, this is why it's a benefit to you, this is why it's a benefit to me, then I think it can work. And I think, going back to the other point with Teresa's setup, is find your identity, right? See what works for you. See what the best avenue is. Like you did polling for like your agents, right? So you're asking for feedback. What is now it may change, it
changes every year.
You might poll out and you might ask again in a year or two, and people are like, you know what? We would really like to come back or have a more defined presence because that's, what works best. But I think having a pulse on your team and what works best for your office is huge. I'm curious to see, when you talk to new agents that aren't in your agency, do you poll them to see what they like?
Because, you mean like before we sit down and talk about my company?
The only reason I bring that up is because, all right, this works for us. But now I'm thinking like, all right, are you missing out on talent that may prefer something else?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you ask, like, is that part of when you engage with an agent from a different office or something like that, is that something that is on your radar, or you don't even get to that point because you're just kind of meeting and kind of getting the groundwork?
If it's someone that I don't know, so an agent that I don't know, or an agent that's brand new, let's say, those are not typical for me anymore.
Yeah.
It's usually I know someone in the industry because I'm looking for more productive people that are experienced or just looking for a better setup, better mentorship. You know, they want more freedom. They want to grow their way and not through more of a structured way. They want less red tape and they want the more entrepreneurial path. Like, that's why I'm a good fit. When it's the person that I don't know, that just, let's say they reach out through their website and they're like, hey, Tim, I am, let's say I'm new, or let's say I've been around for a year.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk to you about Copper Hill. Would you be willing to do that? Most of what I do is say, why don't we start with a Zoom or a call? Because if I don't know them, I think doing that first is a way for me, without sending them a survey or a poll or something like that, for me to just tell them a little bit more about who we are and how we operate.
Yep.
And I do that right at the beginning. So I'll be like, all right, first let me tell you a little bit of the background. It's how long we've been around. I'm sure you've read stuff online. Maybe you've seen videos, whatever it is. Maybe you get my monthly email newsletter. But this is why we are who we are today. And this is where we're going. Like, that's literally what I tell people like right away, because it's not about building the rapport yet until I really, truly feel, look, you reached out to me. So if you reached out to me, I will give you my time. Yeah. But I really want to be upfront and direct with you. It's just who I am. It's just like the honesty is the best policy. I want to be upfront and direct about who we are, because maybe you've seen something online or you heard something and it's not really who we are. So I'm going to tell you that right now. And then I'll know on that call, like, tell me about your setup. Like, do you love going into the office? And they're like, I love going into the office. I go in the office 4 days a week. I'm like, I'll be honest, it's probably not a good fit. Yeah. Like, I will say that. Just like you had said before, disqualifying people, disqualifying clients. I will disqualify agents all day because I'm like, there's no sense in you considering us if you love going to the office 4 days a week.
If that's a priority for you, then it's probably not a fit.
And those are more big box shop. Maybe there's 10 people in there. Maybe there's 15, 20. Maybe they're running 2 training courses out there a day. People are walking around, you know, they're having lunch, they're having conversations, they're grabbing coffee, they're asking people if they want to go to happy hour. Like, that's what they want. They want to go in and mix it up. Yep. I'm like, we're not a mix up company. Like, this is how we do it. And this is why we do it. Like, not the right answer for everyone, right? But this is where we're going. And then when I have that with them, I usually find, like, almost you disqualifying people, I will more or less disqualify people with all the content that we have out there, because they'll learn more about us. So then when they're not shy about reaching out and they're very interested in us, they already have kind of like a 75% feel of why we do what we do and why we're probably different than either the environment that they're in or other environments they've worked in.
And that would be different from a referral coming from an existing agent that you have, right? Because the ground is already laid. This is how we operate.
Already laid the ground. I'm here. Yep. I've been here for a year. I've been here for 5 years. This is what I get out of it. This is what I love. This is why I left my last place. Yep. Like, this is why this place is the best place I've ever worked. Like, just hearing those things, a lot of our agents that we get through our agents. Yeah. So that it really is, it's a little bit more of a buddy system now. In the beginning, it wasn't like that. I was meeting a lot of people I didn't know. I was reaching out to a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, agents are friends with the agents, right? Totally. They're cross-pollination. You're talking, you're doing deals with everyone. So that only makes sense that, you know, it would happen that way.
All right. So let me get to my con of virtual. And again, it goes back to like the pro of brick and mortar. Like, the con of virtual is, like, as much as it works for, is it Teresa?
Teresa.
As much as it works for Teresa to have that open Zoom all day, I think the high majority of people would have a hard time getting down with that. It's not to say that she's not owning her space and that she's not finding the right people who want that, but I think culture is probably the biggest con to having 100% virtual. And I've known people that have done this. So here's an example. I'm not going to mention what company it is, but a company that has a couple hundred employees. They were in an office environment. Then when quarantine happened, they started really double downing on virtual. Yeah. So much so that they were seeing, like, really good numbers. They didn't lose a step. Maybe their numbers were going up. And then about a year ago, they said, we need an office. Like, we've done this for 3 years. Yeah. But we need something. It doesn't have to be anything like what we had before, but we need it because they have so many people, and it is more like the employee mindset that we talked about earlier, less like an agent or insurance agent. And they're like, we need something. And here's who it's for and why. or this is how we utilize our office now. It's completely different than how we utilized it in 2019, let's say.
Yeah.
And I find that to be interesting because, again, that might not be a conference. It's definitely not a con for Teresa.
Yeah.
But I look at that as like, for me personally and my personality, the way the company got started, like where we're going, you being in a community, things like that. Like I find that there is a value in having some kind of brick and mortar for a culture aspect.
Yeah. And I think it's industry by industry, right? So it works for Teresa, and it works more so for insurance. I think because all day it's like calls coming in, service questions, right?
It's all online and phone.
Well, I think it's more so like we have employees, so we have staff, we have service people, we have producers, so salespeople, and there's just so much stuff that is like, well, what about this, or how do we do this, or and a lot can be accomplished through tutorials and stuff we talked about previously. But I think insurance as an industry, you almost need that person here to
you
bounce,
need to be able to like yell across the room, hey, I'm dealing with this. Like I got someone on hold. Like this is what's going on. Can you help me with that?
So I think that open Zoom works specific. Like with real estate, it's like you don't really need, a question might come up.
Yep.
It's not like, hey, Mr. Smith's on the phone. I need to know, was this car added to the policy?
Here's a question. In the insurance world today, we're in February 2024. Just Super Bowl's over. Does anyone ever want to just walk into your office and say, who can I talk to about insurance?
Yes.
No way. How often?
Yeah. It's.
I know you're on a main drag, so you're not on. You're on a pedestrian friendly and car friendly street.
So we don't really allow it. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we like kind of.
You probably don't even want that person. It just doesn't fit within your business model.
During quarantine, like all COVID, we literally locked our door. I'm not even kidding. Like
no sign?
No, there was no sign.
It's total Mooney move.
No sign, door locked, don't come in. And I'm paying more rent to be on the main drag.
Right.
So
dude.
Take that for what it's worth. But there are,
All right, tell me about the person that came in and how you handled it.
So we get a call.
Yeah.
So when we talk about disqualifying a client, right, or finding your ideal client,
right,
we do get calls. Hey, can I come to the office and sit down?
Yeah.
And we literally will say no.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it doesn't align with the client that we want. Yeah. Right. So if you can't.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, not to interrupt, yours is done. It's done through like email, websites, applications, PDFs, back and forth. Like that's how your business is done.
Yeah.
But it's almost like in real estate, like it is done like that, but a lot of it is in person. It just happens to be in person, like at someone else's home.
Yeah.
Or like cruising around a neighborhood or like meeting at a coffee shop, like taking a breather, like strategizing. Like, and it's funny, we've had a few people since we've moved back into a neighborhood in Philadelphia from Center City that have been like, can I stop into your office?
Tell the listeners where you're set up.
Yeah. So
it's a secret.
So we're set up in the Manioc-Roxborough section of Philadelphia. It's an awesome neighborhood in Northwest Philly. And we were in Center City, which is like the heartbeat, the hub of Philadelphia. It's like super busy downtown, cars, public transportation, people, entertainment, public squares, festivals, food, nightlife, business. Like it's got everything.
If we turn the hands of time back, across the street, there was an unbelievable deli.
Oh, I know that deli.
On the corner?
I went there maybe like twice. It was pretty good. What's the name of that place?
I think it was like Mama's or something.
Yeah, it was like a very like unassuming.
Gus would know. Gus was like best friends with the lady.
Of course he was.
Of course he was. But I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, so like let me go back to like that. So we're in Manioc-Roxborough, and then I had a buyer client reach out and said, I'm interested in buying a house. First time home buyer. I live like 10 minutes from your office. I was like, how would you like to do it? Would you like to do Zoom or would you like to meet at the office? She was like, I think I'd like to meet at your office. I was like, okay.
Come on down.
Came in, sat in the conference room. I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And she was like, okay, so, well,
I just wanted to see your space.
I said, here's what we can do. I was like, why don't you first tell me about like how you found us and why you wanted to sit down in person?
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason, you want to learn more, you want to get more of a feeling, you want to work with the right person, people. Yep. And then I said, then we'll go through a little bit more of like the process of home buying because she was first time home buyer.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Young, old, like
younger.
Yeah. Okay.
And we did it for probably like a half hour. And then I said, all right, now I'm going to go through my buyer presentation. Just threw it up on the screen. I was like, let's just go through this one by one.
Yeah.
Being a first-time home buyer, a lot of this is going to be news to you. So this is going to take me 10 minutes, but ask questions as we go. And it was a really, really good meeting. And it's like a lot of times, like buyer consultations for me are either, well, put it this way. A lot of the business comes to me through referral.
Yeah.
It's usually like a phone call, texting, meeting at a house, or like that's how we get started because it's a warm lead. Other people, it's like 9 out of 10 times it's Zoom.
Yeah.
We're just doing a Zoom. Like, let's get to know each other. I'm going to save you time, save me time. Yeah. Let's, again, ask me the questions just like if we were in the office together. And then when I do my buyer presentation, it presents so well.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, as soon as we're done, hey, what I'm going to do, I'm going to email this to you so you have it. Like, take it.
Yeah.
Read it over again. But what's interesting is that, like, look, there's pros and cons of both. I think we would both agree.
Yep.
I think if you go all in an office in 2024, I think you're making a mistake because you're not catering to not only the needs of people who have been through the pandemic and have worked professionally, you're not catering to the needs of the younger generation. There's surveys out all the time now. The younger generation, they want to dress more casual at work. And if they want to come to the office, they don't want to wear freaking J. Crew pants and a collared shirt. No, they want to wear like ripped up jeans and a t-shirt and a hoodie.
Are you telling me there's no dress code at Copper Hill?
There's no dress code at Copper Hill. Nope.
You should see what I make my employees wear.
Sure. They probably look freaking stunningly gorgeous every day.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And why wouldn't they? I mean,
it's Mooney Insurance.
Yeah. Let's look.
Duh. Do you buy your hoodies on eBay?
That's all eBay. All right. So
that consultation, then it was a younger person, which is surprising to me.
Yeah.
And went well, like everything.
It did. Yeah. And it's like,
some people just want that.
And coming into the office, I think it was nice. Like I hadn't done it in a while. And I was just like, I'm so seasoned. I've been in the business for a while. And even first time home buyers, a lot of too, it's like, they don't understand the mortgage process. And they did that for 8 years.
Yeah.
So when they come in, I'm like, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? They're like, what does that mean?
Mortgage? I need a mortgage.
What's a mortgage? And then I'll talk about it and say, all right, let me just give you the real basic way of looking at it. Instead of being like, oh, talk to my loan officer and like go do an application. People are like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
I'll just say, first of all, getting pre-approved is free. And you want to work with someone that is seasoned, that I know because they're part of my team. That's going to make your process seamless. Doesn't mean you can't work with someone you know. If you want to talk to both and figure out who works best, go do that. Yeah. I would recommend you work with someone on my team unless you have someone that you love. Most time, a first-time home buyers like, I don't even know anyone.
Yep.
So that was part of the process. And yeah, it really went seamless. And I think the lesson from all this is in today's day and age, there's no right way or wrong way to do brick and mortar versus virtual. I think some people are going to lean one way heavily versus the other, just like we do with a lot of things in life. And I think it's about you finding what's a good fit for you and pinging us anytime you need anything. So that's all we have for this episode, folks. So thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all B&R episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.